Hey, how are you?
Good.
So, not to pump your tires or anything, but growing up in the 80s, you were my favorite wrestler of all time.
Thank you.
First time I saw you was back in the old Montreal Forum, back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Late 80s.
Late 80s.
Yeah. You headlined with Jake the Snake Robert.
Yes.
And it was like time of my life. I mean, wrestling was...
Is that when we had the lizard against the snake? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you didn't bring the...
Didn't bring it then.
You didn't have the lizard.
I think we had problems trying to come across the border with it.
Yeah, from what I heard, but I mean, it was...
Sounds good, right?
Yeah. But again, that was the old Montreal Forum. It's no longer there. They tore it down, but great wrestling shows. I mean, Hogan normally was a headliner, but at that time you were the headliner.
Yeah.
And when my parents got me the tickets, I'm like, this is awesome. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
I don't remember, but was it a good house? Was it?
It was a packed house. Are you kidding me?
Thanks. Thanks.
So my question is, not the macho stuff, but how did it come about you ended up wrestling Chris Jericho a few years back?
That was on the 25th anniversary at WrestleMania. And then 3 weeks after that, we wrestled in a singles match at Backlash. Believe it or not, it was a request from Chris.
Really?
To Vince.
I mean, you looked great. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know how everyone else feels, but yeah, I mean, match was awesome.
Yeah. I was still getting in the ring a lot of times with the guys and helping them out and teaching them and schooling them. And so I could still, do maybe at my best an 8 to 10 minute match before I blow up, because I really wasn't ring conditioned, and I mean cardio. It used to be every night when I would work with Ric Flair or something, or Randy, we'd go out there for 40, 50 minutes, and this was every night, 1 hour matches every night. Flair and I one time wrestled 90 minutes, an hour and a half. Now, how can you do that and keep the crowd on the edge of their seat, but we did. But it was Chris knew that I was still getting in the ring with guys and working. He said, I'd like to, it was one of his, let's say, bucket list things to be able to say I was in the ring with Ricky. He mentions me in his book, and that was a surprise to me, Yeah. So it came about with the three of us at WrestleMania 25. It was, Snuka and our good friend, late Roddy Piper, and myself. And then because of that evening, prior to it, backing up a few days, Chris was just warming up a little bit with us in the ring, and Jimmy was busted up, and at that time Piper's hips and back was killing him, and he looked at me and he said, Ricky, you're going to have to carry the team here for whatever we do to make this an interesting match. And I said, no problem, we did it. And after that, Vince was so impressed with how able I was to get around the ring, doing my stuff, and he surprised me with a one-on-one match with Jericho in Backlash 3 weeks later. And then he surprised me doing a whole tour with Jericho. We went from the States to Hawaii, all through Japan, back to the States, and we ended up in the Carolinas, to which I had a very long run. I don't know if you know Ricky Steamboat's history. I had a very long run in the Carolinas with Ric Flair.
Any plans for a second time?
I can't. My heart says yes, but I honestly can't. I had a bad. I'm going back about 4.5 years ago. I was thrown down the ring too hard. I ended up with a brain bleed, an aneurysm. I was in intensive care at Tampa General for a month. Almost died, and the old noggin just can't take it. Too many G-forces, too many times, and I had a bad bleed. But the doctor said 60% of the people that have your bleed don't make it. There's a 60% fatality rate, so I just can't. As much as I'd like to, I just can't do it.
Well, again, thanks for the memories. It was a blast growing up, watching you perform.
So I do this, and this is a way of me saying thank you to you all, and I give back. I love doing this,
Anyone
I
else?
love doing it. Anybody else?
Well, we went for the next question. How's Richie doing?
Richie works for Publix. He wanted to do what I did, but he hurt his back. He hurt four discs in his back. He over-rotated on what they call a moonsault and crunched him, and he can't do this. So He's from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he went back, left the training school, went back to Charlotte, and Publix just happened to open up their very first store in the Carolinas. They're going to open up like 36 stores. So he just jumped on board, and now they're grooming him for management. So I'm happy for him that he's got a future.
But he's doing all right. Physically, he's doing all right. Excellent.
I think he feels, he tells me, well, I feel like I'm 80%. Okay.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Big fan. I grew up watching.
What's your name?
Jack. Big fan of yours, watching wrestling when I was a kid. Started watching wrestling 85, 86, so I'm very familiar with you. First of all, you are perfect at the arm drag takedown. I've never seen anyone do it as well as you. You know, there's some wrestlers that have that perfect move, like Kurt Hennig was perfect at the drop kick, but you are the arm drag takedowns, you're the king of it.
You know where I stole that technique from?
No.
A regular Florida boy. You know where I stole it. And the first time I saw it, I was in high school, going from over to Tampa on Tuesday nights. I stole it from Jack Briscoe.
Really? Wow.
Jack and Jerry Briscoe.
Well, you were awesome at it. But my question is actually a two-part question. Your favorite adversary to work with, and also tag team partner to work with.
Well, tag team partner is not hard. It was Jay Youngblood. We were together for almost 5 years. We were the world tag team champions 5 times. We were very good together. He was a Muscalera Indian. I think he was from Amarillo, Texas. He passed away at a young age of 29. But it was him and I for 5 years, so we did real well. My favorite adversary, you know, to me it's a flip of a coin when I mention these names. I will have to say first and foremost, the first guy, it's going to be Ric Flair. Because he was a guy that hooked me up in the Carolinas and really started to escalate my career when it come to being a main event guy. When you start off in the business, your goal is to get to main event, and then once you reach the main event, it's the level that you want to maintain. You want to hold that. So wherever you go in the country, whenever you're brought in as a main event guy. A lot rests on your shoulders for being a main event guy because of the fact it's your name that's out there selling the tickets, so everybody below you is hoping to pick up a good payday, okay, depending how many tickets they sold. And I say, when I mention these names, to me it's like a flip of a coin, but the second guy is going to have to be like a Randy Savage, Macho Man. So I got Ric Flair and Randy at the top of my game. Because both of those guys really helped escalate my name to different levels throughout my career. And then of course, favorites of mine in my heart, Jake Roberts. What a psychologist in the ring. I mean, here's a guy that was 6'5", 6'6", built like a basketball player. Arms that big around, legs that big around. But when you watch him do his interviews and his promos, and his work in the ring and his timing, second to none. And the other guy that I will have to mention that I enjoyed, and he had a good guy working with him on the floor, was Don Morocco with Mr. Fuji. When I first came to the WWF at the time, it was 1985, I got hooked up with him first. And what a pleasure. I remember watching Don Morocco when he would wrestle here in Florida, and this was in late 60s, okay, early 70s, when Don weighed about 225. And he's a Hawaiian boy, and he was a handsome guy, and when I worked with him up there in the WWF at the time up there, he was like 290. You know, he was a big 300-pounder, but what a great guy to work with, and taught me a lot. And Mr. Fuji. Yeah. I got a real quick Mr. Fuji moment. Can I tell it to you? Yeah. Mr. Fuji was known in our business as a ribber. You know what a ribber is? Kind of like a jokester. Sometimes in the wrestler would, if he didn't like you, or if he did like you, but if he didn't like you, sometimes it'd be that you get the worst end of it. If he didn't quite think much of you. There's been wrestlers that walked out to their car after a show, and then their car was sitting up on blocks. With a note saying, pick your tires, wheels and tires up at the gas station down at the corner. No joke. There's been times in which a chain all the way through, this is old school door handles. You remember the other type of door handles that you actually grip? Those type of door handles? Chain over the roof, through the door handle, underneath the car, up through the other door handle, and then padlocked. So you could open the door maybe this much. And with a note, you can pick the key up, it's underneath wherever, you know. So you always had to make the guy go somewhere to get it fixed, to pick up his tires, to get the key. It's taped on the telephone pole around the front of the building, you know, stuff like that. I met Mr. Fuji very early in my career, and it was here in Florida, and he wanted to teach me the 5-on-2. It was a wrestling hold, the 5-on-2. And he said, young boy, no matter how big your opponent in the ring, that if he does not want to cooperate with you, you give him the 5-on-2. I said, now, here's an old timer that's showing this young kid something, and there's a lot of respect involved here, because there were old timers that if they didn't care for you, they would hurt you in the ring. They would hurt you. You know, if they thought that you were a smart ass, or if you didn't give the old timers any respect, or if the young kid would look at the old timer and say, "Oh man, you're too old. You got to get out of the business." You know, there were timers that would hurt you. And if you were a yes or no sir type of guy, and you did whatever they wanted to do, and you get accepted into their fraternity, so to speak. You've been accepted. So I guess this was a moment to which we're going to find out if Ricky's going to get accepted. So Mr. Fuji says, I'm going to show you the 5-on-2. So he said, come with me, young boy. So we go walking back in the locker room, back in the back of the locker room by ourselves, and he says, okay, I tell you, this works every time. I said, okay, Mr. Fuji, I'm ready. So I'm standing there. Show me. Show me the phone. Right? I go, oh! And from the back where this is like in the back where the gang showers are, right? I get let out a big scream, and all the old timers out front in the locker room said that, you know, they're sitting there playing cards or reading the newspaper or warming up, you know, they all break out laughing because Mr. Fuji told them what was going to happen. So that was my initiation into the fraternity, was that he showed me the 5-on-2 that. True story.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for telling that story. We're already starting to run out of time, so let's get through these last 2 questions and then wrap
Story
things
been
up.
okay?
Yeah. Well, not for you, not for 5-on-2.
Hey, but it works.
Yep. Well, that's true.
You could be 6'5", 300 pounds. I don't care if you're 4'10". It works every time.
Trust you on that one.
It
Don't need to trust that theory.
Hey Ricky, how are you doing? You mentioned Randy Savage earlier.
Yeah.
It's believed by most wrestling fans that one of the greatest WrestleMania matches was your match against
Thank you. Yeah,
Savage.
WrestleMania 3.
My question is, the following year when they did the tournament for the
Right.
title, you both were in the tournament. You lost in the first round and Savage went all the way. Was there ever any plans before WrestleMania that you would have that rematch with Savage? And if there was, why did it not?
There was no plan. Okay. When I heard of what the company was doing, they were going to have, it was a tournament style WrestleMania, to which Randy went all the way out to the end and became the new champion. The day of the WrestleMania, the day of the show, I'm looking in the back, they have the brackets, and the brackets were set up just like amateur wrestling. These 2 guys are paired out, you know, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. The winner advances to the next round. Then all the way down, boom, then you're down to the final 2. And I said, okay, I got Greg Valentine the first round, and Randy, I don't know who Randy had. Anybody remember who Randy had in the first round? I don't remember. Then I saw, and I'm just assuming this. I'm just assuming, you know, okay, I'm gonna beat Greg, and then, oh great, then Randy, and then we're gonna meet in the second round, you know. And I'm sure the anticipation of the fans would love to see a rematch because of the match we had the year before. But it didn't happen that way. It was never talked about. It was never planned. So.
And I was kind of curious about that because you really had a grand entrance into that match. You were holding...
Yes, I have. That's the first time I brought my son out. He was 10 months old.
Yeah, and it was just really, as a fan, you thought, oh, this is the time when Ricky's going to go on. And just when Rag 1, it was like, and I just kind of wondered if there was.
I know. I get the feedback on that. It was a shock to the fans that evening that it was a downer. You know, I just thought of the idea of bringing my son out in his outfit, and he was 10 months. And I held him up in the air. There's a picture. I got that picture at home, and I'm holding him up in the air like that. And in between my fingers, you can see where I got his pacifier. The little nipple sticking out there like that, and I'm holding like this. And that's in case if he started crying, I could pop him in his mouth. You know, he got his pacifier. But actually, I wanted to do that for him because I was waiting until maybe he got in high school, and he'd have his buddies over at the house or something, and I would put that moment in. Got it on tape, you know. This is you, Richie, when you were 10 months.
That's awesome.